All right, Judge Ogden put a mom in jail.
She did. She did it rather abruptly, and it was honestly, I've seen some stuff in my time litigating in family court. I've seen people arrested, try to run from the judge to keep from going to jail.
Yep.
I've seen all kinds of stuff. I don't think I've seen anything like that before.
It was completely disproportionate. And let's use the right verbiage. During a court hearing, the judge remanded a mother to a holding cell in the back. And while we were there in motion hour, indicated that this mom was going to spend a couple nights in jail, right?
And then ordered that she get a psych eval.
Yeah. Yeah.
Based on her, and said specifically, based on her conduct in the courtroom.
Yeah. I have seen people say and do all kinds of crazy things in court.
I've seen attorneys
be
far more disruptive and disrespectful in their arguments at motion hour and not even get a rebuke from a judge than this person did that ended up being locked up. And, I know she has now been released.
She was released same day.
Yeah, but the judge said you need to spend a few nights or a few days in jail.
And so I immediately requested the tape, and this is one of those, I love the psychological studies or whatever, where it's like, how much do you actually remember? But this is, if I had to say under oath, what I remember happening. It was a motion to remove an FOC on the case.
Correct.
And the mom that was remanded, had an attorney that was there on her behalf on Zoom.
On Zoom.
And
the mom was there in person.
Yeah, the mom was there. She was sitting at counsel's table very respectfully. Actually, she had this cute sweater on that said "mother" on the background. I really
remember
loved
seeing it.
Yeah. And it was funky. I really loved it. It was kind of like 80s vibe.
Yeah, it was. That's right.
But anyway, so they're renewing a motion to remove the FOC based on some new stuff, which I think was grounds for removal. In my opinion, the FOC had a very emotional reaction. The FOC had not filed a report as required. The FOC wanted to stay on the case.
And, the new information in this new motion was that there is litigation not related to this family court case that involved both the FOC and one of the parties.
Yeah. So this mom had filed to have the FOC, Patience Fitzpatrick, removed. I don't know when, really. I think months ago. Based on the fact that the FOC and opposing counsel were sorority sisters. The judge calls the motion. The judge says something along the lines, oh, they were sorority sisters, that's not enough. Then mom's attorney says there's more information now. Mom has been subpoenaed as an adverse witness in a circuit civil case. And the judge, of course, Judge Ogden hadn't read the motion, in my opinion.
Because she said, when she said, oh, yes, I know you're asking to recuse her because they were sorority sisters or something. And then, this mother's attorney said, no, judge, it's, these are new grounds. And the judge had not said, oh, I hadn't seen that, of course.
Yeah.
It was prominent in the motion. It was the crux of the motion being filed and being heard that day. So clearly the judge had not read the motion that was before her.
So then the FOC kind of goes off and is talking, defending herself. I think she does a dog whistle to the court, basically, because this other civil action is apparently there's some litigation or some mention of litigation against a different family court judge, Judge Ward. Mm-hmm. And that's what really caused Judge Ogden to change, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. There was mention. So the FOC is getting to speak to the judge. Mm-hmm. Now, this FOC is not an acting attorney in the case. It's not a GAL, not making legal argument. This is a person that's there to investigate. And, we've been through over and over the requirement for them to file a report and then have 10 days. This is a little bit of a weird situation because there's been allegations about her ability to handle this appointment correctly and needing to be removed. But if the judge needs to hear from someone who is a witness, someone appointed as in an investigatory role, that person needs to be under oath.
Yeah, no one was sworn in.
We need to have a hearing.
Yeah.
So instead, Judge Ogden gave the floor to the FOC to say whatever she wanted. And during the FOC's rather long response, emotional, defensive response, and I get it. I would be a little,
No.
I would be a little defensive with allegations are made, but
No.
the way that she responded and spoke about the mother basically highlighted why she should not be on this case
100%.
and can't continue on as this case. But the judge didn't seem to react that way to it. But when another judge, an action against another judge was mentioned, you could tell that there was a change in the way that the judge's demeanor
Yep.
was and the facial expression and everything.
And FOCs are supposed to be neutral. That is literally on the order of appointing most FOCs. Like, you're a neutral, investigative fact finder to issue a report to the court 10 days prior to hearing, blah, blah, blah. There's no question in my mind that the FOC in that moment was not NOT acting neutral.
I don't think there's anyone, even the best attorney in the world isn't going to be able to argue
Yeah.
against that. It was a very pointed response. It was emotional. It just showed that there is a conflict, real or perceived, between this FOC and the mother, which I think is what the mother's attorney's been saying for multiple motions now.
Yeah.
To remove her, aside from the fact that she also hasn't filed a report or done any of the stuff that she was appointed to do, allegedly. I don't know. That's not part of what I'm necessarily looking at here. I'm looking at how the judge is handling things here, not necessarily the attorneys.
Well, for the listeners, I did look at the file and I did not see that a report had been filed.
Okay.
Now, it's possible, I guess, that one had not been e-filed, but I didn't
That's
see
true.
one, you know?
Yeah. And sometimes things get filed through the clerk's office and they do not get scanned into CourtNet, so we don't see them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they get notated in CourtNet, but the scan isn't there for us to see. So it is possible that one was filed there, but the allegations were that one hasn't been. So we're taking the attorney who filed the motion at their word. If they're saying that no order was filed, and when Christine looked online, she didn't see a report.
Yeah. And so the other thing is, we are probably like 10 minutes into this podcast. We got a mom that was put in jail in a holding cell in the back. And at this point in the story, mom has not said anything. So you have the attorney make the argument. I thought it was a well-made argument.
She did. She did a good job. She explained it out. She said it in a very analytical way, but a very clear way, laying out why this FOC needed to be removed from the case.
And so then the FOC responds. And then after the FOC responds, my recollection is that mom said something along the lines of, everything she's saying is a lie, Your Honor, we have evidence.
Yes. And I think she said it. So the FOC, and in my experience in front of Judge Ogden, she can let people just go on and on as long as they want. So she was letting the FOC go on. She was making statements about the mom, and the mom was sitting there quietly listening to it, and finally spoke up and said something. Now, if you speak over someone, and it happens all the time in court, you usually will hear from the judge, and the judge will say, let them finish. I will give you a chance to speak. I've done it many times. I've done it as a tactic many times to break the cadence of someone that's just going on and on and on. It's just something that happens in the court. It is not something that if someone speaks over someone else that you go to jail for. And honestly, there have been plenty of times where I have been in Judge Ogden's court where someone keeps speaking over me and she won't say anything, and I think there's no courtroom control at all, and I'm getting frustrated because she lets people talk over each other. So it is out of the ordinary for the mother to speak up this way, and I think she said Judge or Your Honor, and she was polite about it, and she wasn't yelling, she wasn't screaming.
She was emphatic. I mean, she was a little spicy, but...
she felt that there were lies, but the judge's reaction that basically said, you're not going to interrupt this proceeding. Basically, you don't get to speak.
Yeah,
you
have an
an
attorney
here.
You have
an
an
attorney. Don't get to speak. And basically, I'm going to let the FOC, who isn't sworn in, I'm going to let her say whatever she wants, and you don't get to say anything about it.
Yeah.
Now,
then it just seemed like the judge heightened this emotional response. I mean, times 10. Yeah. And then it was like very much, you and I are in the courtroom watching. There were other attorneys there. And then there's something about like, you're not going to get to talk and you need to leave. And then the mom says something. And then the mom says about appealing to a higher court and you're not violating my due process.
Well, so the judge said, do you need to go in my holding cell and cool off? And the woman said something to the effect of, "Oh, that's fine if you just want to deny my due process rights."
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
violate my due process rights. And that was the end.
Yep. And that was like, oh, you're going to spend a couple days in jail. And again, we'll get the full tape. Like, we can't record it in real time. And there is a recording of it. I've already requested it.
We were
But
taking notes, and
yeah. But the second that due process, and y'all know Judge Ogden has been overturned by the Court of Appeals on numerous occasions, two emergency orders where she blatantly violated due process.
and that's always highlighted in those orders.
Yeah.
It's for the violation of people's due process. So that's a hot button issue. It should never be due process should never be a hot button issue. Not in the
No.
United States with a constitution.
And it shouldn't
But
be violated. Like, you know how rare it is for the Court of Appeals to be like, you blatantly violated due process? Like, there could be other procedural issues, or like an
yeah,
issue of first impression that goes before the court, or like
yeah.
interpreting a statute. But just, I mean, it's truly wild. And, you know, this podcast, we have called for Judge Ogden to either resign or be removed. It's too much at this point. I know that she feels the pressure on her. I do think her reaction was unhinged. I think she's under an immense amount of pressure publicly.
Sure. I mean, there wasn't really a proper warning. There wasn't. I don't
Yo,
remember her asking the woman to leave
I think she
before.
did.
Okay, but I don't remember that. I just remember as soon as the woman said something about due process, the judge said, I'm holding you in contempt of court. You're going to spend a few nights in jail, and ordered the bailiff to lock her up.
Yeah, and y'all, the mom's like, you're gonna said something about she had a special needs child. Like, you're gonna lock up a mom with a special needs child, or I'm just trying to advocate for my special needs child. And the judge puts her in the back, or, you know, orders that she be taken to the back in the holding cell. I went and looked at the file, and the father doesn't even live in the state.
Yeah. So this is a kid that I don't know what arrangements were made, or whether she was allowed to make arrangements for this child to be picked up, who was caring for this child, but clearly none of those things were considerations for Judge Ogden. She just got angry about, you know, the statement that she was violating her due process rights.
Yep.
And
And so she
locked her
just
up. Didn't engage in
violated
any more
her due
discussion.
process
Yeah,
rights.
just locked her up. I'm not going to let you speak. I'm going to let a witness speak against you. Not going to let you speak or respond to it. And then when you try to and state that you have a right to do it, I'm going to lock you up. I mean, it was, and
In 15 years, I have seen people act out of pocket in court, for sure. For sure. This didn't even come close to rising to the level of incarceration, in my opinion.
no, I agree with that. And to be fair, judges have broad discretion in maintaining the decorum and the order in their courtroom. If this woman had stood up and was yelling and trying to interrupt the proceedings and keep it from going forward, absolutely, that's the kind of thing you use this for. But that isn't what happened here.
No.
And there were a lot of people in the courtroom. While we were sitting there, there were really audible, and I can't wait to hear the video to see if you can hear people, but there were gasps
Yeah.
in
I didn't know
this
what to do.
courtroom. It caught everyone's attention, and then afterwards, people were talking about multiple people that have been practicing longer than I ever practiced, saying they'd never seen anything like that. So it was significant.
Yes. And I mean, honestly, I think we got a lot of questions afterwards. Do we think that our presence heightened it? Possible.
Sure, but
I mean, was she putting her like an innocent person in custody as a warning to us to shut our mouths and stop talking about it?
no, we weren't talking in court, so
No,
you
but
can't
to
hold
stop
us in
talking
contempt for
publicly.
talking here.
Yeah.
I don't know. All I know is she is under a lot of scrutiny, not just from us. She is constantly being scrutinized by the Court of Appeals. There are other appeals that are, you know, pending. There are plenty of things that have been filed because of her behavior. I was just really surprised with all of the heat that's been on her, with us sitting in the courtroom, that she would act that way.
Yeah.
And that tells me, you know, we've questioned in past podcasts, why would she be doing this?
Yeah.
Does she just not know? Is it intentional? Is something wrong? I think that the intentional actions with us sitting there while she's under all this scrutiny, I think is really informative about what's really going on here. That's all I'll say.
I agree.
But
And it brings us no joy. I mean, and I've talked about this on other podcasts. Like, and I know this is like a girl, you know, emotional moment, but Judge Ogden is a kind person outside of court. She's always been kind and respectful to me. And
Me
a
too.
lot of the judges
time.
are not, okay? They are not. There are judges that I have there is one judge in particular, y'all know who she is, that I literally can't be objective. Like, I can't be objective when it comes to her. There's been too much that's happened personally and that affected my clients. And that is not Judge Ogden. That being said, what Judge Ogden is doing, like what she did to that mother, it was just so unnecessary. What she did in the baby case, insane and unnecessary. What she did in the Nevada case, truly shouldn't happen in the United States of America.
No, that is true. And I will reiterate what you said. I mean, she is one of the few judges I've ever seen where we have events within the family court bar where you can sort of speak openly and speak your mind, judges to attorneys, attorneys to judges. She's one of the only people that I've always felt that I could just come up to and give feedback, and she would take it and talk about it, and there just didn't seem to be an ego there with that at all. And I always found that to be very, very refreshing.
That is a brilliant point, what you just said. And we can we'll pivot a little bit to the psych eval, but there wasn't ego in the moment of incarcerating her like there was ego in the Santry recusal.
Yeah.
There was almost like she didn't know what to do, and she just reacted don't
challenge me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, I agree, and it was
bizarre.
I mean, I've seen that. So, it's not a secret. I filed some of the appeals that have been published against Judge Ogden, and in those instances, I also saw that side of her that I'd never seen when she was a practicing attorney or earlier on while she was on the bench, and I definitely saw it in locking that mother up, that you're challenging me, you're going to get my wrath.
It was very retaliatory, but it wasn't like, what is the word that I'm looking for? It wasn't like it was pre-planned or there was like this malintent. It was like this immediate reaction and not knowing what to do. Still in that moment, I felt sympathy for everyone involved. Now, obviously, there's a power imbalance. The only victim in that room, no doubt, was the mother. Okay, obviously, I'm not saying that. But it was just kind of pitiful is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, it was. It was someone that you were watching someone that was put in a position that was very uncomfortable and didn't know how to handle.
Yeah.
And it's a very basic situation.
Literally.
When you have pro se persons litigating in front of you all the time, like our family court does. Pro se people, while they are held to the same standards as attorneys, most of them have never been in there.
Yeah.
The decorum, they don't understand that. People will react. They will talk over one another. They will speak out when one person is telling their side of the story, saying that's not true. They get redirected to not do that over and over and over. And when I was an attorney representing people, if we had someone on the other side without an attorney, it would happen multiple times in every hearing.
Yep.
That person would react while my client was testifying, and the judge would have to say, okay, you're going to get to speak. I will make sure your side gets heard, but you don't speak while that person's speaking.
Sir,
That's
ma'am.
how you handle it. And there's no doubt that Judge Ogden has to do that all the time on an almost daily basis dealing with pro se persons.
100.
So this was not a situation that doesn't come up over and over and over each and every week in this court.
And that's why I think it was the dog whistle. I think it really was the FOC just being able to spew all of this information about the other civil lawsuit against the FOC. I really think the court was kind of just reacting quick in time and defending the FOC at all cost. Insanely inappropriate. And then let's get on to the psych eval. I mean, psych evals are the new lobotomies in family court.
I want to say in response to what you just said, I think that using the words due process had an effect on the judge when she said something about due process. Yeah, the psych eval part, so after she remands her to custody, locks her up, makes a comment about she needs to spend several days in jail or several nights. I don't remember what the comment was, but it was multiple days.
Yeah,
couple. That she said to this woman's attorney who was still on Zoom, because of your client's behavior in this court, I'm going to order a psych evaluation. Based on someone pointing out that the FOC was not telling the truth.
Allegedly.
Yeah. And
well, now there was a motion on for a psych eval, but I think psych evals are utilized as weapons in family court. Psych evals are stupid. And you guys, I have decided that I'm going to get one I'm going to get several. I'm going to get tons. I'm going to reach out to Marvin and McCrary to see how much it would cost for them to do a psych eval on me. Catherine Burley, I'll reach out to you to see how much it would cost. I will have any psych eval that anyone will pay for, and we'll fundraise some money to try to get me psych evals.
Oh, man.
And they can be completely released. I'll sign whatever it is. I will reduce all liability to anybody and everybody. I don't have to read them. You can publish them. I can't object to anything that you say. I can't object to anything that you do because, we already know what it's going to say for the most part.
But it'll be so much fun for people to confirm what I already know.
Yeah, generalized anxiety disorder, like a little bit of a hypochondriac, LOL, and maybe something else, but it is what it is. But it is such a weapon that is utilized by people going through one of the most difficult times in their entire life to take away their children.
Yeah, it's one thing to have ordered that. It's one thing to order it punitively right after you've locked someone up. So, okay, locking you up's not punishment enough, but you pointed out that there had been a motion filed for it, but the judge made clear it wasn't because of the motion. It's because of what she did in court. She's requiring a psychological evaluation. She was punishing this woman with a psych evaluation for making those statements that we have revealed here.
Yeah.
Just those statements.
And
get a psych evaluation. It's
like from the review of the file, it appears that she's the sole provider of this special needs child. And so what's the point of the psych eval? Like to punish the person that's been the sole provider of the child their entire life? Like psych evals, the involvement of psychiatry, psychologist, therapist, play therapist, court-ordered therapist, and again, all these people that are doing these things, once you're appointed by the court, it comes with immunity. What are we doing? And I'm going to say it. In Kentucky, when I follow more cases than you probably, and this is my belief, and I'll stand by it, but we've got a real problem in Louisville Family Court where Black mothers are being painted as crazy. And this is happening in every court, regardless of the judge's sexual identity, race, religion, gender. It is a pattern that I cannot not see.
Okay. This is not something that I'm very concerned about that, and it's something that I'm going to be watching for, and I'm going to be looking at as well.
Well, and this woman that was remanded to custody, she was a Black female, Black mom,
correct.
And I have seen men, attorneys, fathers say that's a lie. Nothing happened to them. I'm following a couple cases right now out of all different divisions, even when there are high asset cases involving Black or African American females. It seems to be this propensity to say they're crazy. And that's just, that's a pattern that I'm looking. We want to hear all your stories on Judge-Y. That mom was released. I looked at the court order. Court orders were not entered as far as the confinement or whatever, at least as of like an hour ago. And today what is today?
Thursday.
Okay. And so that's 4 days
and
later.
This happened on Monday, yep.
But there was an order for the psych eval, and there were some other orders setting the hearing. So we will wait. But I think there's no question that, first off, the FOC should be removed, and Judge Ogden can't stay on this case.
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of things here I would be interested to hear from practitioners about. Number one, what you've brought up about the pattern related to Black females is fascinating to me, and I would like to hear if other people have noticed that kind of a pattern, because I think that's something important to highlight if it's happening. Number two, whether or not an FOC should be able to speak in motion hour. Now, we've talked about it in situations where if they are giving their report or talking about the case, this was a little bit different because there are allegations that she cannot properly do the job, but the role of the FOC as an investigatory witness doesn't change, even though the allegations don't pertain to the parents themselves necessarily.
Yep.
I still think, the rules are the same about whether or not they can speak at the motion hour, but it's something that I'd never considered before, and I'd like to hear what people think about whether or not an FOC should be able to defend themselves from that kind of emotion, or whether they should have a hearing and the FOC, they should be able to hash out those facts with the FOC serving as a witness testifying about those facts.
I think the notion that an FOC is ever, quote unquote, defending themselves in and of itself is a problem.
Well, that's a different question. That's a different question. Also, a very good point, but that's a different question about,
Totally.
whether or not you have, what we talk about as Imberton rights,
Yeah.
to if that FOC can really come in and speak the way that the judge permitted this FOC to. I'm not saying that FOC did anything wrong here. The judge asked her to speak.
Yeah.
And whether or not that was proper and whether an FOC should be able to speak without being sworn and tell the court things that the court acts on in any capacity, even if it's not directly related to the clients in the case. I'm interested to hear what people think.
Absolutely. Judge-y.com. Tell us your Ogden stories. Tell us your FOC stories. We're really going to do some deep dive. We had so many recusal motions and removal motions.
Yep.
We're going to start really kind of looking into conflicts of interest within the family court bar.
Yep. I think we're going to find a lot.
We need some justice. My life is fine, justice.
Content of this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be and should not be construed as legal advice. Engaging with this content does not create an attorney-client relationship between you and the hosts, guests, or their firms. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any law firm, company, or organization. We make no representations or warranties regarding the accuracy, completeness, or applicability of the information presented. Any reliance on the information in this podcast is at your own risk. Laws are constantly changing, and every situation is unique. You should always seek the advice of a qualified attorney for your specific legal concerns.